Hi everyone, it's Caroline. Thank you for joining me today. I'm doing a flip through of this beautiful, tall junk journal that was sent to me from Get Art Creations. That's Colleen. That was sent to me in a Happy Mail box in July of 2025. I have made this very fluffy and used most of the items that was sent to embellish the journal. I have a few tags here that I put in the pocket. It came tied with this particular trim. But what I did was I put two eyelets in the front and the back cover so that I could close it this way. And I'm going to untie it now. You can see here it's going to pop open. And I did receive this in July, and it's been 7 months that I took to work in it because I do work in other journals. I journal in several at one time. And what I did in this journal, and I can't tell you the exact amount, I don't know the amount of pages that were in here. There were quite a few. What I've done is I combined some of them together. Some I took out and I reused in as ephemera and as to make different things in here. And I also added my own ephemera. You'll see I've done some collaging and all kinds of different things. So there are pockets here in the front and in the back. And this is a fun little item that had some tags in it. It also has a Rolodex card that says this journal was created by Colleen. And on here I put the date July to February. And then I did add some journaling on the inside. And then I added my own little hearts. I did some coloring and then I did some journaling on the back. Some of these pages I did share in some videos, so I will put the playlist below. I took some of the pages, some of the trim, and I rehomed them, but I can't tell you where and which ones I did unless they're very obvious to me. I think this one I did. And then I used some of my own items. Lots of scraps. That's what I love. Lots of scraps. The scraps that were sent in the package are used in here too. And some of them are my own. Oh, and I have some of my own, I have some memories in here. So I won't be able to show all of the pictures because it has our grandchildren. This is Tara when she was 3 years old. I put some little tags, some eyelets. I made a hidden paper clip. So this is summer memories. And I did journaling on almost all my tags. A collage with, this was sent in the package, and then I did some I used lots of magazines. Just when I was in here, sometimes it would be before bedtime or just throughout the day, and I would pick a saying. I would make my own saying, maybe a lyric, a song lyric, and then it came to me. This one is Don't Steal My Sunshine, a winter page. That's how I feel these days. The digital kit that was used to create this journal, I left in most of the decorative pages, and I added my own mark making and clusters, different things like that. And I did some flips and I did some texture paste, lots of journaling. This was already in here. I added my own little ephemera added a little bit of decorations to some of the tags and things that were sent. And some of them were a little more elaborate. But they're tall pages, so I really wanted to make use of that. Made some paper ruffles, all kinds of fun clusters, masking tape, lots of doodling. These are all kinds of little scraps and some washi tape, some of my stamps. This was October, so some of them, most of the pages I think I've dated. This one I added a little cluster of scrap ribbon, a little paper bead that I added to the edge, whatever was hanging around on my desk and in my little baskets. One of Colleen's tags that was included, but then I added my own embellishments on the top. Did my journaling. This was August. I just saw the date. One of my butterflies. More trim with some more paper ruffle on top. Did some journaling in between here. This was September. Magazine, a lady, Deirdre Green. I liked what she had to say. A great reminder to stay aware of our bodies. And some more magazine. This one I left completely. Some of the pages I left plain because besides some of the decorated pages, I didn't need any more. I believe I did a video for this one. Lily Elsie and a frame and some butterflies. I took one of the papers that was in the package and I made a corner, just a corner spot to tuck in. These are some photos from when we went on our cruise in Paris. And I thought that was really fun to put that in here. Grand Palais, I put that because that was from one of our brochures that we had. And I thought this was pretty fun. There was a picture in one of the magazines of the Eiffel Tower and somebody having ice cream. And I just took some fun scraps and then I added, this was from the bus because we did have a cruise. So we had to take the bus to Paris. And it just shows some of the signs of the highway. My flowers. Lots of threads. My ruffle, paper ruffle. Lots of journaling. Here's another little corner tuck that I took from the other part and I sewed around it and doodled around some of the flowers on the page. And I could doodle all day long. And then this holds this paper here that I put together. I made this little cluster. And then I also took some of the tags and I cut them apart and I made this little dangle on the edge with an eyelet. And some magazine and book page, and then I just sewed around this little tag and added some journaling. Put it in there, some more ephemera. And in the package there was some purple paper, really thin like crepe paper. Almost looks like the the paper they use at the dentist. And here's some ribbon that was in the package, and I took the edges apart and I put a ruffle on the edge here. This page, I folded it in to expose some of the other pages behind, and then it also made a pocket, something different with the page, just to create layers. And then I took one of my thrifted medical books, took the cover off, and I put a just made a little tassel, and I did some journaling on there. Oh, this was actually a boarding card that I had found from when we went to Newfoundland. On this side, I made a little bag, a cluster, with some parchment paper and all kinds of fun threads and embellishments. Another one, I did some journaling, sewed around that. So I'm using some of my leftover digitals. Some of this is from Old Dulcina, just a scrap piece of stained paper to put into my bag. And on this side, I have a paper clip. I just added a quick little bulb pin and a pearl from a broken necklace. And then I added just a little cluster that I made. So it looks like it's holding it in there, but this is all glued down. Did my journaling. Then on this side, I made a tuck spot. Used some doily, some more scraps. The pretty pearls of wisdom I put down here. Then I just folded this over and added my dots. Some journaling. Because there are lots of pearls on these pages. Took one of the papers and I made a little flip, and I decorated with some of my magazine and book page tape. There's some more of that purple paper. Downright adventurous. Some trim. Lots of journaling. Really used up a lot of scraps. Here's a scrappy piece of lace or trim, and I added my own little decorative painted paper. This side, you can see the digital kit itself has lots of pearls and lace, and I just enhance sometimes with some silver. I use some of my liquid pearls on some areas just to raise it up, and then some of my pink markers. More clusters, journaling. Added a little flip, a card, a little journal card that was in here. I think I cut that down a little bit just so it gave a little different interest. And on here was a little folder. There's some journaling on a tag. And then here I added from a little advertisement from one of my vintage magazines. And I love this one because I remember the day. I just broke it down. Introducing the promise of freedom in your art. However you create it, do it for you. And I just took some magazine words and I made my own description. Lots of scraps on here, glued down on top of some fabric trim. Don't overthink it. I made this was a long time after I did the page, but I had all these little bits and pieces. You can see some left over from my boho journal. And I made a little tassel, put it through this tail, this whale tail tab. A little tassel. A little circle of fabric that I colored with some of my marker. Put a stitch in the middle and I made like a little flower. Some more of my vintage Woman's Day. And then just some cluster with stamps that were in my stash. Cut this little girl out. I had done a lot of other art pages with her, but I thought this was time to cut her out and put her in here. It's all about playing. The colors went really well here, so I took that as my cue. A very plain page, and I just really started to talk. Added a little cutout, one of my stamps. This was from magazine. And this is some mark making I made with my gold paint. Did some stamping. I took one of my crayon drawings that I did at the dining room table one day, and she found a home on this page with a rose, and I called her Rose. And here's one of the tags that came in the package, and I left it the way it was. I added one of my yo-yos and glued that on, and then what I had done with the yo-yos, I added some stitched satin ribbon. I made little rosettes with that, and I put that on there, and then I used it for my journaling. And I also received in the package was a collection of photos from Trisha Romance, and so I used some of those pictures in here. A little tea tag, more scraps, picture of a farmhouse kitchen where you could have tea. My stamp that I really love, and I use it over and over again, is Cherish the Ones You Love. Embellishments, little trims. I'm not sure if I put that on or if it was on here. I think I did, because I glued two of the pages together. And then this is a note from Colleen that was also included, so I put that in here. And I did some journaling. It was done in a couple steps. I had this Orange Crush cut out of a magazine, and I thought I'm going to put it on here one night, and then I started adding different things to it. I put some orange paint, and I put a woman's Orange Crush. I did a big swirl of some fluorescent paint, and I put, I Think Orange is Always in Season, was from a magazine. And there's a song that I really love by REM called Orange Crush. And I just put down a little sentiment in here. This girl, Wild and Free, and I called her Remy because of REM, and I called her Remy. So that's how I got her name. My painty paper. This guy is a visitor. always try to be in the moment and not just a visitor. So then I did use something on the other side, which I didn't realize went on there. This is from my mom and dad's Reader's Digest gardening book. I also did some stamping, and on some of my book pages, I was practicing something one night and I cut out a whole bunch of them. So you might see a few in here. Some more of the Trisha Romance. And then here this was from a card I made one of our grandsons. He just had a birthday and there was this little part left over. So I put it on here with the wagon. I thought it would be great to say all I need to do is start, begin, commence, take a step. A guitar that I had cut out from a magazine. Oh my gosh, I moved this thing around quite a few times. So I just put it on this page, did some journaling. I put into the forest I go to lose my mind and find my soul. And music is in my soul. This was from a magazine. And then some cardboard that I had used for mark making. I put it in here. Put the little girl in here. I also used my glue to take the gloss away. Here's another one of my embellished stamps that I cut out. Here's a teddy bear. I think this was part of the package, but it was on something else. I took it off and I put it on this piece of paper. And then I had some of my wedding dress, not my dress, but a dress or a fancy dress that I took apart. I used some embroidery floss to put it on and did some memory keeping, some journaling. My little girl memories from when I was a girl, sewing with my mom. Left this one plain. This was already on the page. I added some journaling. Trisha Romance page. Beautiful porch. This page I left plain and I drew a bird. And I followed a book on birds and I just looked at it. Drew it myself. Used the book for inspiration. From Our Nest to Yours, I used this as a backdrop. Made a cluster, made another little bird with a strip of paper. Followed some directions. I think that was from Pinterest. And I made these, I wrote down what I did here. I made these one night before bed. This was separate though. This was done in 2025. I don't remember which month. I think it was early. And I took a whole page and it was a tall magazine. I can't remember which magazine it was. And I put it in on this spread. This is the middle of a signature. And I just kept adding some of my little scraps. Choose joy. I love farms and barns. Both my mom and I do. Took a piece of my graffiti receipt and I put it on here and did some doodles. Trims and pieces of printed out graphics, clusters. I did this tag up with, I added a little eyelet and some trim. And I made myself some roses with some of my another plain page because it's beautiful the way it's put together. And on this side I embellished some trim, little piece of that dress, all kinds of fun pages, a little bit of punchinella, my own masterboard art with fabric, a stamp that I have, and I cut it out time after time. We can't get back time, so do it now. And then this little girl, this was also in the package. I added some of my lace here on the side. I added another polka dot heart that I had cut out from some paper. And I put "It's Raining Hearts." Well, this page here, I decided to use my fancy punch edger, my lacy edger. And I couldn't get in here, so I just left that plain up at the top. And then I had this from something that I've had a while, and I put this girl on. It was actually this part of this graphic was over here, so I put it down because it wouldn't fit across. Then I added some more of the ribbon. And that's all. I didn't even add any journaling on that one. Just pretty to look at. This is my paper lace that I made a while ago. We lose ourselves in books. We find ourselves there too. This just reminded me of school because of this graphic. This was all in my basket, and I put École de School of Hillside du Bois because we live in the forest, in the woodlands. And then I had a tag. This was a long tag. I cut it in half. It's 8 plus 9. But I wanted it to go in here, so I had to think of how am I going to do that. And then I just added my own little saying. I put, "If things don't add up, you can always take something out of the equation." These are a couple pages glued together here. I will add the video on how I made that. Well, this bunny was cut in half. I put him back together. I lost his ears. It was like I didn't really need to do this. I have so many other things, but I really wanted the bunny on here. I don't know why. I think it was the colors. So I took another page of this golden book, which is completely finished now. Little piece of, and I added ears. I added this trim, and I called it the Princess Bunny. A little bit of piano paper, more little papers that I took apart. Bunny Bride, sweet one. Just fun little nonsense things that I think of. And then this was in here, but I took the page and I cut it in half and I glued it to the other side. Just did a little bit of taking apart. I did some journaling. I added a tab. And then this card, I just added a few more embellishments. And I found this. "Look deep into nature and then you will understand everything better." Albert Einstein. This piece of lace was on another card. And I thought I wanted to use it in here, so I took it apart. I did some slicing and splicing, and I took this image here. I added a little piece of washi tape, and I put her in between. Added some of my little sticker words from a girl. And then I added some journaling in pink. I think this is a couple pages together. I just folded over a little piece of that, left that plain. And I did some doodling, made myself a little butterfly. It was a snowy morning. This is my morning playground and butterfly wishes. And I just did some swirls, fun doodling. Now this page, this was a postcard that was in the package. And it was it's a postcard, so I took the back of it off, but it kind of peeled off, and I don't mind that look because I wanted it in half anyway. And I added a little more of that trim over here. This is a photo that I took the gloss off and I added it in here. This is from my mom. This was my mom's neighbor stash. This is from the 20s. And then this was this one, these 3 black and white images. I just stuck with black and white. And I added here, this is from my Chatelaine magazine images that I had from 1966. This is from the 20s, 1920s. And then this is from 1984, so lots of different vintages. Added a little corner part and some fabric, made a cluster, cut some of the fabric out. Did a little bit of journaling on here. The Eiffel Tower. Oh yeah, I made a little flip out of this piece of paper with some lace. And then I did some journaling on there. This was glued together, 2 pages. Some stenciling. This page here, I made a pocket. I just trimmed that down a bit, added these glasses that were from a magazine. And then in the pocket, I put an envelope that I had made, that I transformed in an envelope using some leftover papers and tags. And I just collaged on it. And then I added one of my envelopes that I have a video on. It's got notes. And I thought that was a good place to put that. That fits in there. Something that I had made before bed. I left that plain. And this one I left pretty plain. This paper doily was on here. I actually glued this tag down on here. And then this one I just left in. Added a little whale tail. This page, we went in in 2017, we went to the NHL 100 Classic at Lansdowne Park in Ottawa. We went with our daughter and her husband and friends. So I have the tickets and the piece of just some ephemera, and it's been gathering dust, so I thought it would be fun in here. I made one of my one sheet wonder pockets, and I just did some fun mark making, some painty paper, so I put that in here. Keep that as a memory. And I glued it down. I didn't do anything on the front. I thought this was all you need, so I can have that memory there. And on this side, going through some of my newspapers that I received for free, and just here's some flowers that I cut out from a gardening book. Little cluster. I just like the color, the patina of this picture. It's from 1915. It was in the newspaper, so I cut it out and put it in here. This is a couple pages glued together. I added some tabs. And on this side, from that Chatelaine magazine, this lady, I loved her. I love her nail color. And I put, this was from Celeste, some really fun items that she added to an Etsy order that I bought from her. And the colors really matched. So I put, what inspires you? The everyday colors, that's the key. Inspired. All kinds of little fun scraps that I put together here. Well, it's the English seaside. I wrote that right there. The fragrance of my life. And then I just added, this was from an advertisement, a perfume bottle. Made a cluster, some thread. Added more sewn clusters. Piece of napkin I made into a pocket. Here's an authentic photo from the stash. And then this was also in here, but on something else. So I sewed a little cluster of, I took it apart and added a piece of lace. Put in here. And this just shows how you can make a journal that you've purchased or that you've received as a gift. It shows how you can make it personal and for your own memory keeping. I have everything in here. I have collage and doodles and clusters and things that went with the book. Here's an image floating around, a piece of the lace. Found images and scraps. I added this journal tag in here. I just added it to I put a piece of fabric so that I could put a pin. I could flip it up because it's got a rose on it, so it wouldn't fit into a pocket. I just thought of something to attach it to. And this one I left the gloss on. This was from my 1966 Chatelaine. It was a Stokely advertisement. I took that apart. This little girl was in my photo stash. And she's sitting under a tree, playing with clothespins and like a strawberry basket. Anyway, I thought that was just fun. It all went together to me. Did some doodling on here. I love my jeans. There's a hand holding a chain. It was holding like a lamp. But I just took it apart and put a flower. I just made my own little clusters in the balance I put. This is the middle of a signature. I took the fabric that Colleen had sent as a piece of fabric, and then I started cutting around the images. This was from a magazine, so I put that colorful doorway to a barn. I added my own little vine to continue with the flowers up and around. Did some journaling. Just put these little tickets and a little stamp on here. A little bit of thread in the bird's beak. It was the perfect size, so that's what prompted me, and the colors went really well together. And it was tall. And this was another tall page. birch trees with the beautiful tulips scraps. And I just added that this looks like the birch trees here in our woodland. But then my mom loved tulips and had a ton of tulips in her yard. So that's what that reminds me of. This page I left plain. I added a piece of cardstock here that was printed on and some seam binding. Did some journaling on that side. And this journaling goes with this page here. This is from this was 1965. In my magazine stash, this was in with the newspapers that I received. It was an advertisement. So I just put that all together, and it reminds me of when I was a flower girl for one of my aunt's weddings. And everybody dressed like that in the 60s. Now this was Colleen's. She added the brad on here, and then I added it to this page. I sewed it on, needle and haystack, and then I just added a little bit of journaling so that I did it so that I could open it up and journal on it. And then I added the little button down here so that I could hold it closed. Cluster with some of the fabric. This is Tea Bag magazine. Flowers, jeans, and hearts. Fun. Doodles. Magazine. Did some coloring on the tulips. Doodles. The last page is right here. Same thing. I took the two pieces of paper that were on the grommets and I affixed it to the page so that I could swing it open. And then actually there's journaling on this side, so you have to look there, and it just sits in. And then there's an uptuck here. I don't have anything in there now. I did when I started working in here so I could keep everything together. I only have a few things left that didn't find a way in the journal. And here it is. So full of fun memories, fun art. Almost need 2 people to do this. There we go. Well, Colleen, thank you so much for sending this journal to me. Took a few months, 7 months, but I knew it was going to take a while, especially with all the beautiful pages in here. You really put a lot of heart and soul into making this journal. I really appreciate it. It was fun to work in here. I hope this gives you ideas on how to embellish and how to maybe some ideas. This is a tall, very tall journal. It's 12 inches tall. Hopefully you'll take away some ideas and you can do that in your own journals. Have fun, everyone, creating, spending some time, some quality time in your journals. keeping memories, practicing your art. Always be adventurous and stay cozy. I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.